Last week, someone asked me to help them use Claude at work. They'd heard about it, they wanted to try it. And the first thing they said to me was, I don't even know where to start. That's exactly why this series exists. Not for developers, not for tech people, for the person who just wants to do their job better and suspects that AI might actually help if someone would just explain it in plain English. That's what I'm going to do. Starting right now in this episode, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Claude is, what it can do for you, and you'll have had your very first conversation with it. Let's go. So, what actually is Claude? Claude is an AI assistant made by a company called Anthropic. You talk to it by typing, or sometimes speaking, and it responds in plain English. That's the whole thing at its most basic level. But here's what makes it different from just searching Google. When you search Google, you get a list of links. You still have to click through, read, and figure out what you need. When you ask Claude something, you get an answer. A real answer, written for you in response to exactly what you asked. No links, no ads, no 10 articles you have to skim. Now, and this is important, Claude isn't connected to the internet in real time by default. It's not searching the web when you ask it something. It's drawing on an enormous amount of text it was trained on. Think of it like a very well-read colleague who has absorbed millions of books, articles, and documents and can have a conversation with you about any of it. That's a strength. It's also a limitation. And we'll cover both honestly as we go through this series. The company that made Claude, Anthropic, built it with a specific focus on safety and honesty. Claude is designed to tell you when it doesn't know something, to avoid making things up when it can, and to be genuinely helpful rather than just telling you what you want to hear. It doesn't always get it right. But that's the intent behind how it was built, and it matters when you're deciding how much to trust it. The question I get asked most often, what's the difference between Claude and ChatGPT? Honest answer, they're both capable AI assistants, and for a lot of everyday tasks, they'll give you similar results. But there are real differences worth knowing. ChatGPT is made by OpenAI. It's been around longer, has more name recognition, and it has a larger ecosystem of plugins and integrations. If you've already been using ChatGPT and it's working for you, that's fine. Keep using it. Claude, made by Anthropic, tends to be stronger at nuanced writing, handling long documents, and following complex instructions. It's also been designed with a particular emphasis on not making things up, what the industry calls hallucinating, though no AI system eliminates this completely. We'll talk a lot about hallucinations in episode 8. Google, specifically Google's Gemini, has the advantage of being connected to Google's own products, Gmail, Docs, and Search. If you live in Google Workspace, that integration matters. This series uses Claude, not because the others are bad, but because Claude is what I know best. And I want to teach you something specific and useful, not a generic overview of every tool that exists. Let's talk about what Claude is actually good at, because I want you to start with realistic expectations, not hype. Claude is very good at writing, drafting emails, editing documents, rewriting something that sounds stiff, making something shorter or clearer. If you give it something to work with, it can make it better. It's good at explaining things. You can paste in a confusing contract clause, a technical document, a medical summary, and ask Claude to explain it in plain language. It does this well. It's good at summarizing. Paste in a long document or article and ask for a summary. Paste in a set of meeting notes and ask for the action items. Claude handles this reliably, and it's good at brainstorming, coming up with ideas for a project, a gift, a business name, a presentation structure. It's fast, it's non-judgmental, and it doesn't run out of suggestions. Now, what Claude is not good at, and I want to be direct about this because it matters. Claude does not know what happened yesterday or last week. It was trained on data up to a certain date, and it doesn't browse the internet to update itself unless you're using a specific version that has that feature enabled. So if you ask it about a news story from this morning, it may not know. Or worse, it may generate something that sounds plausible but isn't accurate. Claude can make things up. The technical term is hallucination. When it doesn't know something, It sometimes generates a confident sounding answer anyway. It's not trying to deceive you, it just doesn't have a built in signal that says, I don't know this. We dedicate a full episode to this, episode 8, but I want you to know it exists from day one. And Claude is not a lawyer, a doctor, or a financial advisor. It can explain concepts and give you context, but for anything with real professional stakes, you need a real professional. None of these limitations make Claude less useful. They just define what it's useful for. A hammer is an incredible tool, but not for driving screws. Knowing the difference makes you better at both. All right, let's do this for real. This is Claude.ai, the website where you'll actually talk to Claude. If you don't have an account yet, go to Claude.ai and sign up. It's free to start, and we'll cover account setup in detail in episode 2. I'm going to type something very simple, something a lot of people would genuinely want help with on a Monday morning. And I want you to watch how I ask, because the way you phrase a request matters just as much as what you're asking for. Here's what I typed. I have a meeting with my team in an hour, and I need to explain why the project is behind schedule without making it sound like anyone's fault. Can you help me think through how to frame this? Notice what I did there. I didn't just say, help me write something. I gave Claude 3 things. First, context. I have a meeting in an hour. Second, the situation. The project is behind schedule. And third, my goal. Explain it without making it sound like anyone's fault. Context, situation, goal. That is the single biggest difference between getting a useful answer and a generic one. The more Claude understands about your real situation, the more its answer fits your real situation. We'll spend all of episode 3 on exactly this skill. Now look at what Claude came back with. It's not a template. It's not a generic, here are 5 tips list. It understood the actual tension in what I asked. Accountability without blame, honesty without finger pointing, and it gave me a real framework. Open with the facts, take ownership as a team without singling anyone out, and move quickly to the plan to get back on track. That's something I could genuinely walk into that meeting and use. But here is the most important habit I want you to build starting today. I am not going to copy this, paste it into an email, and send it. I'm going to read it, decide which parts I actually agree with, change the parts that don't fit my team or my situation, and use it as a starting point. Claude is a thinking partner, not an autopilot. It gives you a strong first draft of an idea. You bring the judgment, the context only you have, and the final decision. That's the mindset I want you to carry through this entire series. Claude at its best is like a very capable colleague who's always available, never judges your question, and always gives you something useful to work with, but you are still the one in charge. Before we close out this episode, I want to introduce something that runs through this entire series: how to think about trust with an AI tool. Claude is not a person. It doesn't know you. It doesn't remember your previous conversations unless you specifically set that up, and it doesn't have your best interests at heart in the way a trusted friend or colleague does. It's a tool, a sophisticated, genuinely useful tool, but a tool. That means you bring the judgment. You decide what advice to take. You decide what to verify. You decide what to share with it and what to keep to yourself. In episode 2, we'll cover exactly what's safe to share and what isn't. In episode 8, we'll go deep on how to catch Claude when it gets things wrong. And in episode 9, we'll talk about the risks of adding third-party features called skills or plugins to Claude and how to evaluate them safely. Safety in this series is not a one-time disclaimer. It's woven into every episode, because getting good at Claude means knowing both what it can do and where it falls short. So here's where you are right now. You know what Claude is. You know what it's good at and what it's not. You've seen a real conversation, not a polished demo, a real one. And you know that this series is going to take you from exactly where you are today to someone who uses Claude confidently every single day at work. Your homework before episode 2, go to Claude.ai. Sign up for a free account if you haven't already, and ask it one question. Any question, something you'd actually want to know, just to see how it responds. In episode 2, we're covering how to set up your account properly, what privacy settings actually mean, and critically, what you should never paste into Claude. That one's important. See you there.